Watch my life pass me by, never knowing where I belong in a web of love and lies. As you string me along, and I can't breathe, I can't see. I'm losing sight of everything. I feel the walls closing in, and we're falling apart. Oh, I just wanna be free, I just wanna be free. Think I'm falling apart. Oh, I just wanna be free, free. Watch my life pass me by, never knowing where I belong in a web of love and lies. As you string me along, and I can't breathe, I can't see. I'm losing sight of everything. I feel the walls closing in, closing in. I feel I'm falling apart. I feel I'm falling apart.
Tired to sleep, I can't turn off my mind. When all of your problems lay right next to mine, and the green paint, the white sheets, this house we built for you and me. I can't help but repeat the best dreams and we hoped would be reality. But now I know the answer why I toss and turn like it's my fight or flight, like looking up at the sky. And there is so much more than meets the eye. And you said your life was black and blue by keeping all the pain inside of you. I felt I wasn't enough. How can I call it hate?
to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzo FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordy Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they are going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh, the canvas sends him.
Get your front
They're 30 wide.
He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is going to win.
Tonight, the battle for the Autobahn Sportscar Championship makes its way to Georgia. And with the drop weeks being just a round away from being a contribution for drivers for the point standings, the pressure is on for the rest of the way to not have to use said drops. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's action here on FTF.GG. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me the booth once more is IMSA driver Michael Johnson. Tonight, we race for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The hillsides of Princeton, Georgia getting all set to go. And in turn, expect an intense race tonight over the course of 60 minutes, Michael.
It's going to be intense for sure. This place always brings excitement. This is where I cut my teeth as a very young race car driver, still in my teens. I love this track. Turn 10 has changed a little bit since I raced there, but we should be watching out for some major movement there. A lot of people are going to try those passes coming that long stretch down the hill. We can also watch turn 1, maybe up into turn 2, somebody trying to slide up inside there. You get to that really slow point, but then you get through the S's and it's kind of just hang out and wait for your next opportunity. Like I said, it's going to be getting down to the bottom of the hill at 10A, so I think that's where most of our action is going to happen tonight.
Now keep in mind, as talked about, drop weeks are starting to play a factor. In fact, the final of the 2 drops applied after tonight's race, so the organizers expecting things to become clear after tonight's action. Those point standings to mention verbally, once again, Dominic Dornberg up at the top of the standings, has a 16-point advantage over Maximilian Muir. You have Paul Gibson, who has 10-point penalty in total on the season. That's put him behind 19 total instead of being just 9 back. You have a minus 20 for Nathan Dowd in the fight for GTP. Then you also have the LMP2s, where Jeffrey Ohms looks to try to run away from Alex Caruso. Right now it's 26 points the difference entering tonight. The GTDs, Yun Park and Ross Booth are having a battle to really talk about. How about 4 points the difference? And then there's GTD AM, where it's in Rain and Mark Kedrowski, who are amongst the top 2. It's a tie for second, with Eds and Rain up 11. Kedrowski tied with William Brennan entering in. A lot of focus in turn expected to go on that GTD battle entering tonight, Michael.
Yeah, the GTD battle is going to be interesting with it being as tight as it is. That GTD AM, Ed Eisenring, a really good driver. I've watched Ed in many different series. He really gets out there and puts on a great show. But over in the GTD, Young Park, Ross Booth, those two, they seem to just have a really good flow to their race. I love watching these guys. It's going to be a lot of fun watching the whole GTD battle, AM and Pro, work its way out. But don't forget about all that excitement up there in the LMP2s and the GTP. There's going to be a lot going on up there, especially when you've got Nathan Dowd, Dominic Dernberg, and Maximilian Muir sharing that front little bit with Leif Peterson right alongside them in that second row. So I expect to see some amazing racing all through the field tonight.
So with that being said, the drivers have about 30 seconds before they roll here tonight. Let's take a look at the starting grid tonight. We'll go class by class. First things first, GTP. A grand total of 7 drivers set lap times. 9 are entered. keep in mind there were some penalties for some drivers, including Paul Gibson. Maximilian Muir at the pole spot tonight by half a second over Nathan Dowd. Dornberg, Peterson, Billy Smith, Jimbo Pfeiffer, and Eddie Layden all set times. Gibson and Williams, David Williams, will start at the back of the field. That's the GTP class. Now talking about LMP2s, Michael, that's going to get a little bit more intriguing. It was a little bit bigger, that spread.
Yeah, Jeffrey Ooms putting down a nice time of a 109 flat, little over a tenth, about a tenth and a half almost behind him, Carter Kundinger. Carter never one to take anything lying down. I expect to see him making a really hard push early on. Robert Tensey and Robert Cast behind them with Brian Bennett and Christopher Pies filling out the LMP2 field. But we're about to go green up front.
Rest of the drivers on screen and amongst the GTs for tonight. Green for the Yams, red for the pros. Ross Booth, Michael Barlow leading the way for that pro side. Meanwhile, it's time to go racing. We're underway from Georgia for the Autobahn Sportscar Championship. A clean launch for Mir, already single filed out up the front of the field. Paul Gibson trying to make up some spots at the back, nearly got side by side. But here come the LMP2s to start their race, already single file.
Jeffrey Ooms made a really nice start, got a great lead out over Carter Kundinger. Carter is still trying to hang on, closes up a good bit as they get into turn 3, but then loses a little bit. Looks like he overdrove it a little bit. Robert Tensey right behind him with Robert Cass trying to hold on to that 4th spot and be part of the party. Meanwhile, back in the GT class, we've got looks like Ross Booth with Michael Marlowe right behind him, right on his heels, only about 3/4 of a second behind him. This is going to be a tight race.
So already off to a clean start as well throughout the field. No major troubles to start off the race tonight. 60 minutes up on the clock once again for this round today here in Georgia. Keep in mind, field limits are instituted to think about for the later stages today. All while up at the front, Mir leads the first lap up in the GTP class today. And remember, a lot of these drivers today expect to feel some fatigue. After all, there was a certain iRacing special event where drivers raced 24 hours around the World Center of Racing.
Yeah, great race. Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. It is the kickoff of the IMSA season, and it is one that everyone on iRacing looks forward to. You get your best buddies together, your best teammates together, and you put together the best team you possibly can, and you just hope to stay out of trouble for 24 hours. And wow, is that a grueling race. Many of these drivers you see on your screen right now probably also in that massive event.
Keep in mind, amongst those, that is a headliner name when it comes to a lot of series across the platform. Alex Caruso not a part of tonight's action. LMP2s. That's something to think about with already a drop week having to be used here out of the 2 tonight, with those being factored in. Seeing how the choo-choo trains are faring out. A few drivers meeting the wall. There's a look at some of the GTDs. Significant damage in the heart of the field. That's Andy Scheel spinning across the racetrack. That's an AM driver. Robert Kansian hits the wall hard on the Audi.
Yeah, he was having a little trouble there, and he was with a bit of crabbing as he was coming around there. And it was just trying to put some power down, see what he had, and unfortunately the car just took off left, and he was trying to stay right. You could see what was going on there. And unfortunately, putting that power down, it just shot across the track and took out one of the other drivers.
Here's a look at the replay. This is how that sparked. And turn 5 is expected to be a major attrition point for this reason.
Yeah, turn 5 is tough because there's a desire, really, a good opportunity to overrun that way on the outside. But what happens is if you don't have the car set up just right, exactly that right there happens. The car gets too wiggly because it's too stiffly sprung and you're not controlling the movement of the chassis. And now that Audi driver, just a rough time right there for him. I think we're going to watch from one more angle here. We are back live, coming back through that same corner. There you go.
Oh.
See, that's that same Audi driver. Unfortunately, running a little wide. I'm guessing he may have a bit of damage from that incident.
That is Austin Diltz, who is amongst those making their first start tonight in the AM class, and not the way the 8 may have wanted this to go. Interesting enough for Diltz, That's a name more so seen in the league scene on the oval side, amongst those crossing over to the road side that many more are trying, especially with the rise of a lot of the series on that side of the platform.
Yeah, it's fun to watch some of these guys come in. I know road people who are like, oh, well, they're just an oval driver. I never have discounted an oval driver in my life. Those guys are so good. They're used to absolutely tearing through those oval corners and getting millimeters off the wall. So just because they're an oval driver, don't discount them. They are really good at pulling those absolute limits.
Take a look up front. This is the front for GTD for second. Marlowe, 2 seconds back of the leader and trying to close up to boot, but he has Alex Simonik behind. They also have a few others like Eric Starponi in the train, Michael Ross. Things getting pretty compressed in amongst this respective grouping. And for Simonik, he's been with a lot of big organizations, been strong in various league races too. He's somebody you have to talk about possibly for the podium spots as this race progresses tonight.
Yeah, but also in that mix, this is a battle for the GTD second place, and it is super tight. Notice, though, we've got an AM driver in there. Ed Eisenring is holding his own with these pro drivers. He is just about a half a second off Eric Starpoli's tail, trying to get on up there and be second in GTD overall.
Yep, that's how crazy this run's been so far, but we've already got into where traffic indeed played a factor for the GTPs. Here's Mir, and zipping on by quickly amongst a lot of the drivers, and that's one thing to mention today. Traffic overlap expected to be frequent. That just came in about 6 minutes for the green.
Yeah, with these guys starting laps at about 1:09. Oh no, that's going to be P2 in our GTP class. Oh, that's going to be tough for him. That's not going to go well. I think that was Nathan Dowd, or Nathan Dowd took a big spin there.
And a couple more are cutting through the grass right now. That's including Paul Gibson. So second, third, and fourth, amongst those having some tight moments. First getting through cleanly, or rather second in the points getting clean. Gibson and Dowd, third and fourth in the standings, not so much.
Yeah, not anymore. Now this track is one that you really have to be patient on. Trying to cut up underneath there in turn 3, not exactly the wisest move. And oh, look at all the carnage in the background on that one. That just led on to more and more. Such an unfortunate incident there.
Gibson has mandatory damage from that lick right there, you see at the bottom of the screen. And that's to be expected. That was Paul Smolenlock, who is spun back across the track in the 99.
Yeah, now we are back live here, taking a look. Looks like trying to limp that car back in. It's got a little bit of crabbing going on. You normally see these cars going so much faster through 10A and B. Going to dip down into the pit lane here. Tough, but listen to that car. It is not happy as he gets up to that timing cone and just tries to trundle down the pit lane and get some repairs going on it really quickly.
So that incident likely going to hurt him long-term for the championship. A little bit more diciness in LMP2s. Amongst those having some dicey moments again is that 8 machine with Dilts. You see backdrop there. But some of the others down the main straight. Robert Cast, Brian Bennett, Robert Tinsley amongst those who were in a Hornet's Nest. It's becoming an absolute mess to get around even the straightaway up to 10A and B tonight.
Yeah, as long as these guys are still this close together, it is going to be a challenge because you have to pick those spots. And this is the point in the race where being patient is super important. You don't have one car to pass generally. You're going to have these big blocks of cars, and you have to compromise your exit off of a corner. That's going to make you go slower on that straightaway. You're not going to get down to the next passing opportunity quite as quickly as you think. And when you've got blocks of cars like the one that's Simonich, Strapoli, Michael Ross, Ed Eisenring, that big grouping there, that's going to make it really difficult to get around, because these GTDs are not slow in a straight line. They are really, really fast. So you've got to be careful and really patient as we watch. Ooh, off to the right side there. That was a little scary.
That was Cameron Bidwell. You've seen Ruzo Matsos, who was also involved in incidents. Near contact as Brian Bennett nearly loops it around on the inside. The Sector 5 machine having to take a lot of shallow lines to get around this traffic. It's leaving things very vulnerable here in attacking moments.
A little bit of flashing of the lights there, just letting them know you're coming. That is actually good communication. Some people think, oh, he's just being a jerk flashing the light. No. He actually is doing it for a good reason there, I believe. So he's just letting the guy know, hey, I'm coming up. Beware. I'm going to try to do something here. Allows that person to really take note of where they're placing the car. Just like that. Just stay on your line and make a perfectly expected movement. If you start to do things that are unexpected, that's when things go sour.
Still keeping an eye on some of the drivers to work their way through the traffic like Bennett here. And keep in mind, when talking about the team metric, one of the organizations that's quietly showed speed, well, obviously up at the top you have Composite Performance, Platinum, and Carbon. But you have Satellite, Hyperion that also have the strength and numbers you can talk about in terms of entries in the series. But Composite as a group has had, it seems, the consensus consistency class to class when you take a look at some of the names that are part of that roster this year, even when you throw in Titanium, who's back at 7th.
Yeah, the Composite, all through the classes, every class has at least, I think, 3, maybe 4 different composite cars in it. Really, really strong team, putting out a great showing. A lot of sharing of the setups and the setup theories going through that team. They really do a great job working together to make sure the team as a whole does well.
Sector 5 was referring to, and that is amongst those 5th in the team metric when it comes to Brian Bennett. He's also, mind you, one of the drivers trying to make up a lot of ground. 111 points back entering today in the standings. So far, towards the back of the class per se, yes. But is amongst those that's been having to play a lot of defense too. On, for example, Christopher Pice. Again, this is the back of the LMP2 class. But still, with the way the race like this plays out here, traffic management could be key today. What'd you say?
Absolutely. Chris Pies knows how to work traffic. I have been the traffic, and I have been the one on his tail trying to get through traffic. I think once or twice I may have actually been in front of him, but that is rare. But watch Chris as he comes up and tries to just get right alongside that GTD car, trying to make sure his opponent, Brian Bennett, right in front of him, gets a little bit compromised. Now they put the hammer down, come around the final corner, down turn 11. There's a little bit of a compromise of those GTD cars. They've got a race going on, and Bennett has to swing over to the right. But look, as Chris Pius comes in here, really good, solid line. He's managed his way through that traffic well without any consternation.
So already past 10 minutes through. In fact, coming up to 13 minutes down in the race for those just tuning in. 8th round of the season for the Autobahn Sportscar Championship here on FTF.GG. So far, Mir leading by about 10 seconds. That gap went down 3 seconds with the traffic last time. Jeffrey Ooms is leading over Carter Kundiner by 2 seconds in LP2. Ross Boove is currently up by about 3 seconds as well in the GTD Pro. You mentioned Simonic earlier, and amongst those, think you can take a look towards. He's currently amongst those battling for 3rd. And keep in mind, you see the livery on that race car. That is with an organization that's been trying to make a lot of waves in the past few months, especially after some shuffling in January and December. WSR Esports. It's an organization that runs its own series more so, but now is trying to get a big presence in the esports realm. They were one of the top contenders in LMP2 action and top split for the Daytona 24 this year, and they're a team on the rise, as we've seen with the 250 as well in the GTD tonight.
Yeah, Staropoli here really trying to stick up underneath the wing of Alex Simonic. That's less than 2/10. This is a pass waiting to happen, and this is really good patience that we're seeing here from Eric. Eric's not trying to push it too hard. He knows he's got a fuel stop coming up. He might be sitting back here to save a little bit of fuel, so he pulls in less fuel later. But as they come out of turn 5, you see that Simonic is trying to pull away, gets a little bit wiggly, but I think Eric Starpoli is not having any of it. He is right back up underneath the wing. We could see an opportunity for pass if he gets a really good exit here and tries to catch up underneath him there into turn 10A. Alongside here off the back of the car, here comes some LMP drivers cutting their way through traffic. Nicely done, but I think we're looking at a difference in downforce here. It looks like Staropoli has maybe a little more downforce, but Simonic, he's going for that trimmed out wing. He does not want to have too much drag. So we get to these tight little bits like we just saw right there. It's a different race. Eric just really catches up to him quickly. So I'm going to guess this opportunity, like I just said, is a chance for him to save some fuel.
That could be very critical when we get to pit stop time by about a few seconds in the box. I was about to say, in terms of the point, in terms of the car he's chasing to with Simonic, this is, according at least to the sheet, the first time in the field today for GTD Pro. And here's some of the names keep in mind that are some of his team bosses alone since the shuffle. Andy Shield, who we've seen in the crash already, Daniel Ferguson, Ross McFarland, Daniel Kraft. You throw in, for example, Michael Avdanka, his teammates, for example, Ian Gagnon Renault. You also throw in Andrew Caron. You throw in drivers like Gabriel Ruse, Adam State. That's a pretty loaded team in terms of the league scene when you think about it, and it shouldn't be a surprise to see the 250 up here already.
And this league always brings in some very heavy hitters. So you're used to seeing big names all through the field. You've got people with iRating in the 7,000-8,000 range up and down the field. It's not uncommon to see these guys who do compete at a very high level in iRacing just coming into the Autobahn and having a great time and putting on a fantastic show for us.
For reference, by the way, debut, Monic running 1:18.1s. The top two are running about 0.3 quicker on average per lap. Booth and Marlowe are running away. More traffic, by the way, behind. That's Billy Smith II. So back to the discussions on some of the other hands of here. Satellite Racing's Billy Smith II, looking solid. Also hearing a lot of pressure starting to build up from the potential in the heart of the field in the top 10. Paul Sylvanek, he's feeling a bit of pressure. And this is Cop Car closing up. Time to turn on the emergency sirens. And, or in the case of the livery, find a mushroom and find some speed.
Yeah, I think we may see some mushrooms deployed here soon. Nikhil Kopkar really trying to close in here. Now, this is out of class. Kopkar is in the pro class. Slavonic in front of him is currently P2 in the AM class of GTD. This is not a pass that needs to be made. So he's just doing this for, I guess, fun. Now we've got inside, we're going to see one of the LMPs coming through. That was an interesting place to make that pass, but I think it equally disadvantaged both cars. Nikhil Kopkar not faring too badly out of there. Paul Slavonic also hanging on to that position quite nicely.
You know why this could be relevant, though, in the case of Kopkar? You know who's next in line in the queue of cars? His teammate, who is an AM driver, and Trent Brown.
Yeah, this could be an opportunity where he is intentionally sticking back here and wants to help his teammate, Trent Brown, catch up. Trent is about 6 seconds off of his tail, so he's got a lot of time to make up there. The car you're seeing on screen there, that was a different class. But here we go, up the inside. Nikhil Kopkar trying to make that pass. Looks like he does, in fact, get around Paul Slavonic. Puts the hammer down coming out of the corner. Is he going to be able to hold on to it down this straightaway, though?
Especially with the slipstream, Slavonic does have the chance to pass back if he wants. In fact, he is. Not going to elect to take the chance to save. Looks to try and go back and forth. And keep in mind, the more Slavonic tries to fight this here with Kopkar, the more he loses to the current class leader in Eisenring, who's coming up their first career win in the AM class last time.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some interesting developments through this AM class. We've got a really tight little bit going on. So Ed Eisenring kind of checked out. He's out front. He's another 6.5 seconds out in front of Nikhil Kopkar here. But Slavonic, Trent Brown, and Rosenbaum right behind there, they are all trying to close up for the rest of the podium. Slavonic doesn't necessarily have it tied up. He's got a battle that's coming his way, although Rosenbaum is trying to make a pass on Trent Brown. We'll see how that one works out in the long run, though.
Keep in mind the car behind, mentioned his position. And the interesting as well, your thoughts on the manufacturer parity throughout the season you've seen in Autobahn so far compared to some of the other series we may see on the platform?
I tend to be a Porsche guy. I know I've raced BMW in real life. I've raced Porsche in real life. In iRacing right now, it feels like the Porsche is the right car to be in. For a while, you couldn't get me in anything but the AMG. That was the only thing I would race in GT3. Right now, with the new 992 that came out, about a year ago now, it seems, it is still the car to be in. It just has the balance that I like, and I think we're seeing that play out pretty well here. When you look at Ross Booth, Michael Marlowe, Ed Stropoli, Michael Ross, yeah, we've got a lot of these Porsche 911 GT3Rs up there. There's just one Audi from Simonic up there. Simonic in the Audi R8 Evo 2. He is currently in P3. But the rest of the field, at least the front part of the field, is pretty heavily occupied by these Porsches.
Just past 20 minutes through in this one. He's still waiting behind the 250 machine for the time being. Currently, the difference is about 2 seconds to the next spot up. They are slowly chipping away at Marlowe, I was about to say. Remember, the last time we talked about them, it was more so around the 5-second difference between second and third.
Yeah, now down to about 2.5 seconds or so. So they are kind of working their way up here. Or at least Marlowe is possibly hanging back. He knows Ross, who's in P1, is a very fast driver and may think, I'm just going to let him check out and I'm going to save some tires or save some fuel. We will really know what happens here after they go through this pit stop rotation. This could be a chance for Marlowe to try to save some fuel, maybe manage some traffic a little bit. The management goes both ways. It's not just the car passing, it's also the car being passed that has to manage that traffic.
So right now the matter is also thinking about big picture here. And one of the things I'm seeing is the big pace, I will say, out of Mir, to touch upon that once more, because Maximilian is checking out the 69 machine. That's 16 seconds up you're seeing on the pylon, by the way, in his Acura. That car is not playing when it comes to speed. I'll just phrase it that way. The winner at Sebring and Silverstone early in the season, as well as at Road America. Missed the first race at Daytona, yes, but that car is on rails.
Max has a really nice setup in there, and he is handling it beautifully. Now, how does it use the fuel? That's yet to be seen, but Max has really dialed this car in. He understands what he wants to do with it. Now, that was a little close there as we have some LMP2 traffic and some GTD traffic to contend with. Little movement around there, but Max is being patient. He's not trying to push too hard. He's just got that car dialed in beautifully and is rocketing away from everyone else in the class. He still has, I think it's about a 15-second lead, so he can afford to take a little time when it comes to traffic right now.
I was about to say, even with that 3-wide move, Mir was the quickest driver on the racetrack by more than a second. On average, he's 0.4 quicker than everybody else the past 5 laps. And that's with heavy traffic the past couple laps. That's how quick the 69's been today. Dornberg, for reference, is still in that second position. And the interesting part in all this matter, too, is it gets back to the conversation of the manufacturers. Cadillac and Acura. At Daytona, the Acura was the more popular car. There was a lot in terms of discussion heard in terms of fuel economy there. But Mir's caddy, the highest running of the caddies in the point standings, is definitely showing a lot of speed for this for the American horsepower.
Indeed, he is. Now, personally, when I'm driving these GTP class cars, I like the Acura. I know I said I'm a Porsche guy, but honestly, the Acura in this, for me, is the most balanced car. It may not be the fastest, but it's the one I can turn the most consistent laps with. So when I go and look, I might be a tenth off of where the Caddy is, but as far as making lap after lap after lap and just being a metronome, the Acura is the car for me. Now, again, it's really down to personal preference what these drivers choose. We've seen a big shuffle up and down the field. Everything except for, I think, the Porsche has been on that top step, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's an interesting point in terms of that side of things. The Porsche highest running in today's field for reference in the GTP, if you're referring towards that mark, is still, as mentioned, in the battle for third. Peterson has caught up to Smith, for example.
Yeah, like Peterson, he's trying to close this down on Billy Smith. Now, he's had some luck with traffic. Does that mean he's going to be able to hold on to that luck, or is Smith going to be able to pull away? Having raced against both of these guys, it's hard to imagine either of them pulling away from the other, because they are both very quick. Now, a little bit of traffic coming up there. I think the advantage on that one, getting around that GTD car, was definitely in Peterson's side. Billy Smith kind of got caught up trying to go around the outside. Here we are back on board, taking a look from the nose, getting a quick pass around, coming up into that braking zone of turn 6, right there at that line. Hit up close, push the power out, braking again, and you've got to really feather that throttle nicely coming out of turn 7. This is what I call non-turn 8 and non-turn 9. There's not much of a turn here. It's really more of a straight. Now, where is he in relation? He's still about 1.7 seconds off of Billy Smith.
Lost a little bit of time, if anything, in terms of the interval. It was down to a second or so with the previous time around from some of the traffic. But that's just some of the ebbs and flows around the racetrack, right? Sometimes the lap traffic gives you some time. Lap traffic takes it away some other times.
Indeed it does. Now it looks like Max Mir turned yet another fast lap. He is just out there rocking it, just making up as much time as he can. He's got 20 seconds out there. I think Dornenberg, though, just had a little bit of a scary moment. I couldn't tell if it was with traffic or if he just kind of got a little bit off track on his own, but he really needs to mind his P's and Q's here. Billy Smith is 5 and a quarter seconds off his tail, so he really needs to mind where he is and not get caught up in trying to race a race that isn't there.
Speaking about races going on, this battle's still going on for GTD Pro. Monix still leading the choo-choo train effect here. They've dropped back a little bit more to about 4 seconds back to second. Booth still leading by 4 seconds on the racetrack himself. They did have a third car. I was about to say for a bit in this train. Michael Ross has fallen off the back of these two. He was able to match toe-to-toe in terms of tempo for a little bit. Not anymore.
Yeah, getting a little bit wide there coming out of 10B. Or into 11 on the entry to 11. He got out a little bit wide. I don't know if he's overdriving a little bit or maybe his tires are starting to go while he's managing traffic here as that GTP car comes up the inside.
It's going to take a little bit of time if there's a chance to get back fully in drafting distance. It's about 1.3, 1.4 seconds back for reference right now. And
yeah, last lap through, it looks like Michael Ross may have had a little bit of traffic issues, running about an 18.3, which was about 0.3 slower than Staropoli in front of him, and Alex Simonek in front of him with a 17.9, 8.95. We'll call it a 9. Actually, no, we'll call it an 8 because they'll like it better that way. But yeah, trying to really open this up and push and get out there. But this lap through, 18 flat.
They did get a little bit of help, these two you see on screen, from Jimbo Pfeiffer, who waited all the way to start Sector 3 to make a move. Instead of trying to force it side by side to turn 6, no time really lost by the GTDs in this grouping. Just about a minute away from the halfway point in this one. And one of the things to consider for tonight, the incident point mark is 20 incidents, then 5 incidents for each after that drawing a penalty. And for the most part, drivers seem to be minding their tires to the pavement instead of saying P's and Q's. If you're talking about avoiding the green stuff, the racetrack's enemy, the grass.
Yeah, this track is a really easy place to pick up a lot of off-track incident points. Right here, really tough as you watch them come through. That little bit of triangle at the grass at the end of that bit there will get you an incident point, including right here as we watch them tracking all the way out. Now, coming out of 7 right here, you can hit that boom right there. That could get you an incident point. You're just running right up on the edge. All 3 cars there, right at the ragged edge, and I don't think any of them picked up an incident point there, but they were really close to it.
Just those razor's edges that can come into play at a track like this. Keep in mind, this is not a circuit with special rules when it comes to off tracks compared to some of the newer ones on iRacing. It's quite simple. You go off the racing surface at a certain point with about more than half your car, you get that 1 incident point. That was how originally the system worked at a majority of circuits. Then there were some exceptions written to some of the other circuits. Of note, I believe pit stops are already underway. Yes, indeed. Some of the LMP2s have rolled their way in for scheduled service.
Our LMP2 leader, Jeffrey Ooms, is in the pits. He is the first of the LMP2s, I believe. No, actually not the first, unless the others were for incidents. But Jeffrey Ooms, our current LMP2 leader, in the pits. Carter Kundinger taking over the lead for now. We'll see how that plays out once this pit stop rotation works its way through.
Expecting that next time by. Everybody else in class except for Kundinger and Cast coming down in the past lap. Brian Bennett went for a 2-lap undercut and lost a spot to Christopher Pies as a result of that pit call. And that could be the tough part of the equation too, right? Is if you're in a battle and think, if I try and go for the undercut, maybe this will work. It's not a guarantee that it would work. Nathan Dowd, by the way, you just seen is in.
It's not a guarantee that it'll work. You really have to play it smart. You've got undercuts, you've got overcuts, and how to time it, how to work it. It all depends on where you come out in traffic. What is going on the track when you come out of the pit lane, not necessarily when you go in. That can help you think about the opportunity, but you really need to know where your car is going to end up. If you end up in the middle of a battle of out-of-class cars, that's really going to mess you up. But if you are all alone and able to just turn fast laps, that's exactly where you want to be.
Kundinger has ducked down to the pit lane. So, pit window just about fully closed up for the LMP2s. Robert Cast is the furthest along out of anybody on strategy. We'll see if the undercut hurts him or if the overcut helps. Kundinger, keep in mind there was a few seconds difference between the two of them. The teammates look to be still 1-2, and Ooms looks to vroom away.
Yeah, meanwhile, Chris Pies has caught up to Robert Tenzi. A little bit of traffic for Robert, causing some difficulties. Chris Pies being able to really manage that traffic as he was working his way through there. Robert, although caught up in the traffic, not in the most advantageous position for him to be in. So really good battle starting to form here if Chris can hold on to this position and then just find that exact right opportunity. But right here, Chris is going to get caught up in a little bit of an issue. Now, back to another part on the racetrack. We're taking a look at one of those composite cars trying to blast its way down the straightaway, getting maybe a little bit of toe off of that GTD car in front of him.
Yeah, that's currently amongst those you were discussing in terms of the other side of the track for what is for third, fourth position once things close up on the strategy. Robert Cast is still going, by the way. He saved a good few laps on the gas to the point he's right now still in a sea of traffic, yes. But how much gas did he really save here? Conditator went one lap further and saved 1 second in the pit lane.
It makes a difference. You can change tires. You can put new tires on there if you want. They should work just fine through the hour, but I think a lot of people are opting for it since it doesn't really cost you any time. But now we're going to watch here as Robert Cast probably going to make the dive. Yep, makes the dive down into the pit lane. Now, right in front of him, that's Dominic Durenberg, who locks it up a little bit. I wonder if Durenberg may have been speeding a little bit in the pits. That could be an interesting development for our P2 in the overall race and P2 in the GTP class.
Mir is in, mind you, and is already off the jacks. You see him in the pit box ahead. Scheduled distance for stops about 28 to 30 seconds once more for GTP today. Mir already off and away. GTD already in the midst of its pit window as well now. Several of the AM drivers have already ducked in this lap. Michael Ross amongst those on the pro side in. Rosenbaum has already gone in on the AM side in his neon-colored Ferrari. So, you're looking on track, though, to the overall leader before the pit stop. Mir expected to cycle once again. Nobody's been able to stop him. It's to the point where he's lapping other GTPs. He just lapped Leighton.
Yeah, Leighton has not even been in the pits yet, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
He is 31 laps on this stint. Now, in front of him, Leif Peterson is diving into the pits to make his pit stop. He was essentially the leader for just a little bit there, but it looks like Max Mir is probably going to overtake him here unless there's some kind of magic that Peterson knows in making these pit stops.
Looking down the lane right here, there is Leif Peterson. He'll need the magic 1 second pit stop. Unfortunately, he doesn't even have 1 second to be able to institute the magic trick. That's how quick Mir's been, and that's how quickly Mir's back up to the lead. They didn't yet to come down for service with 24 minutes to go. So a majority of the GTD leaders still yet to serve for their pit stops outside of booth. Keep in mind, expecting for the GTDs a lot of top-offs, 20 seconds the current average.
Yeah, meanwhile, the leader of GTD, Michael Marlowe, he's currently the leader. You mentioned Booth has already gone in to make his pit stop. Pretty good. He was 41.7 cone to cone. That's a pretty decent time, 19.3 stationary. Now Marlowe coming up to turn 10 here, getting into 10A. Nice little clip of the curb. Clips this next curb beautifully. Nice use of the exit. Is he going to dive in looking like he's setting up for it? Yes, makes the dive in to the pit lane. Heavy on the brakes as he goes through that S as in the pit lane. Hits the cone. Let's see how he does here, because meanwhile we've got Alex Simonek right behind him, about 1.4 seconds, also in pit lane. So this is the time for everybody to make that dive into the pits in the GTD class.
The money stop is on for some of these battles, especially for third in class. Marlowe already in the lane, trying to get the fuel into the race car. Who's going to get the advantage here? This thing, Simonek, I believe, has picked up some damage to the right during the run. He's got some left front dents on the bumper. Is that going to hurt him the rest of the way in this fight? Strapoli already off and away. Simonek loses a spot in pit road.
Ooh, meanwhile, Ross Booth retakes the lead as Michael Marlowe comes out of pit lane. This is shaping up to be a good race in the GTD class. Ross Booth still in the lead. Michael Marlowe in P2. Eric Starpoli, P3. Good gap between these guys. Now, this is the time where there is enough of a gap that the faster classes coming through, the LMP2s and the GTP cars, are able to have an easier time threading their way through these classes. So now I don't expect to see as much traffic effect on the cars as on the racers as they're trying to make their way to the end of this race.
And in turn, keep in mind with Simonek having that damage, that's going to hurt his chances in the draft, you'd have to think here, because the worse the damage, the worse the aerodynamics in theory, right?
In theory, yeah, but I'm trying to take a look around his car, and I'm not seeing that much on Alex Simonek. He actually looks okay to me from what I'm able to see, but there could be something going on there in the suspension or something.
That leads to a question. In theory, is there enough time at a pit stop to change a bumper if you're just taking fuel?
I'm going to go with no, but it's hard to say with iRacing. iRacing, you can show that you're missing a bumper, and it looks like, oh, that's going to be 2 minutes to put a new one on there, which it would normally be in real time, but iRacing may let you replace it in 8 seconds. So that could happen while you're taking on fuel. So it's really hard to say what is iRacing going to put as a repair time for that.
Fight very well beyond. You also have some LMP2s and GTPs wanting to get around very quickly. That's hurting things in chances for the 250. Michael Ross now with a chance to jump him, in fact.
Yeah, it looked like that was a really bad positioning for Simonek. Michael Ross, though, taking quick advantage of it right up under that rear wing. We may see an opportunity here. He's going to go defensive. Simonek going defensive. Ooh, that's 2 moves. Meanwhile, Michael Ross takes up that inside. Really hard fighting there, going back and forth. Can Ross make this pass, though? We're going to go through turn 11, final corner. Gets a little bit of a nose up the inside there. A little bit of a bump. It's going to be tight. Looks like it's going to be Simonek holding on to that position for now.
So in turn, this battle expected to keep intense, to say the least. There's a look at the overall pylon, by the way. Just 6 total drivers on the lead lap because of that car that just zipped by. Mir has lapped his way past Pfeiffer, has a chance to lap Dowd, maybe Leighton again, this time for the actual full lap, with how the pace is broken down here. Under 20 minutes to go, though. It's been almost an extremely calm race outside of the lap 2 incidents. Outside of that, no major troubles.
Yeah, we have seen some pretty big incidents in this group before, but they are playing quite well. We're watching a lot of patience being exhibited by these drivers. They're really trying to make the most of the points. Early on in the season, you think, oh, well, it's okay, I can take a drop week. But now we're getting to the point where I really need every last point I can get. Maybe I should think twice about sticking my nose in there.
And an interesting note just heard over the radio, and I think curious if we can get a look towards this. We're talking about massive speed differentials with traffic. We mentioned Austin Diltz on debut tonight was involved in a massive incident earlier. It's to the point where, say you're amongst the prototypes tonight. Imagine some of the surprise when you pass by the speed when a prototype dives it in from 20 car lengths back.
That's got to be a little scary. I don't think I've experienced a prototype from 20 lengths back in real life, but I have seen them come up probably, 7 or 8 car lengths back, and that gets pretty crazy when you see these guys coming around. You think you're going really fast, and you are, but they're going that much faster. It's just insane when you look at the difference. Our fastest lap from our leader of the GTD class, Ross Booth, turned a 1:17.439. Now, how much faster is Max Mir? 105. 105. Wow. 105.952. That's a huge difference. Most of that's going to be in the straight, but not all of it, because there's so much downforce available to these cars. And then those electric motors that allow it to claw its way out of the corners. It's crazy to see how much of a difference there is here between a GTD and a GTP.
I mean, to regurgitate what was mentioned on the radio by Diltz, it was just hilarious how much more speed differential is, but also the stopping power to make it stick when you're talking about a prototype or an LMP2 in this case. It's coming to play. By the way, for a composite, it's a team 1, 2, 3 for their cars. Ooms, Kundiner, and Cast. Cast has jumped ahead. Also, it's a good day in terms of the team championship for them. A lot of the entries are doing a lot good today.
As we would expect from Composite. Composite has always come out here and done just everything they needed to do to be at the sharp end of the podium. They are always on podium, it seems like. I can't think of a single race where there hasn't been a Composite car on. Now, part of that is numbers. I get it. One of the teams I raced for, Tech Sport Racing, we would go out there with about 8 cars across 2 classes. So yeah, you're probably going to hit a podium when you've got some talent out there. So that's part of it. But you got to remember, there's a talent part too. I think Composite Racing has done a good job really bringing in the talent and getting the right drivers in there and everybody working together to make sure they have a successful race day.
And strength in numbers, extremely important in turn. Because in theory, the more people you have on in an organization, the more easier it is to get the numbers, be able to test new setups, be able to test data, be able to essentially distribute resources. I'm not saying the best team in terms of the iRacing side is the one that has 500 members, but I'm saying it's better to have, say, 15 or 20 than it is to have 2.
Sure, there's a lot more data to work with. You can learn from what's not good as well. You can see when somebody goes into a corner and look at their data, see how their braking performance, how they're using the steering wheel, how they're balancing the pedals to get the car to rotate just right through the corner. Watch what somebody does right, watch what somebody does wrong, and you start to learn how to make the car go faster. So I think there's a lot to be gained. It's difficult with only 2 people, absolutely. But I think some of these larger teams that have 5, 6, maybe 10 drivers on the team, they really do have a really nice resource to pull from when they start comparing data.
By the way, back to the battle going on between Simonik and Ross. 4th position still on the line. Ross has been able to keep just about dead even on speed down the straights. The draft doesn't seem to, if anything, be playing a major factor to help Ross fully close. He keeps having to send it a little deeper in the brakes. This time he got a little bit more closer to see if the draft would help.
Yeah, meanwhile, he's going to try to close up under the wing. He is closer this time than he was last time when we were watching these guys, but he keeps getting pushed to that outside. It is very difficult to make the pass from out there, but he's got the downforce to be able to get around. Is he got enough? Does he have it? Can he get the hammer down right here coming up through the corner, get under the Fox Factory sign? No, looks like this time, once again, Simonik is able to take it over as they run through that. This could also be an opportunity to just test. Michael Ross, smart racer. Alex Simonik, smart racer. I think we might be seeing, though, opportunities here for Michael Ross to just test those waters and let Simonik carry him around the track until it's time to really strike.
And there was contact for those who may have been looking very tightly at that battle side by side. 13 minutes to go in turn. As things look to close out here. It's going to reset Muir up at the front, 36 seconds. Ooms leading by 4.5 seconds nearly. Booth over to Marlowe. Eisenring, we haven't seen too much of his car today in the 929. Again, give that Imperial Motorsports driver credit today. The AM leader, again, picked up their first win last time out. Is the points leader in AM by 11 points, mind you. That total expected to grow here, especially when it comes to one of his championship contenders and competitors, Kabrowski, not having a good day with the DNF in the 35 car.
Yeah, Ed Eisenring, he's kind of in a world of his own. Notice how he was going into that corner. He actually overslowed to allow all 3 of those cars to get past him. He has time. Behind him, if you want to go back to Nikhil Kopkar, sure, that's 12.5 seconds, but it's another 6 seconds or so to Paul Slavonik, who I think just had an off. Meanwhile, Bradley Haley able to get around him. So right now, we've got Ed Eisenring holding on to that position. He's got all the time in the world he needs in these next 11.5 minutes.
Look indeed over to Haley. Once one of the drivers we haven't I don't think even mentioned by name today, is another one of those with Sector 5. And they're another one of those groups that, when thinking about Sector 5, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is more so the Oval program, but is again one of those groups that says, and amongst many that are starting to pick up on this, to be well-rounded, you need to be able to drive a road course. It's not just simple as turning left. If you can't turn right, it makes it difficult to move up the ladder.
Yeah, having a nice, well-rounded driver behind the wheel makes a difference. I see a lot of times in those oval courses where it's someone who has only ever done the oval courses. Once you start going both directions, you start to learn more about how the car pitches around, and it gives you just another axis, well, sort of another direction on the axis to start feeling what's going on. So when that starts happening, I think you're going to see a lot more talent coming out of the drivers, the more they start focusing on being able to get onto these road courses and do well.
Zach Michaelitis has had an issue, it appears. The 44 car has now got significant damage and is out of the race. One of the AM drivers in top 5 in that class, no longer on circuit.
Yeah, here we see Michaelis coming up. This is turn 5, getting a little bit too wide on that outside. That is what gets you. You've got to really be careful when you set this car up, set any of these cars up. As we see him there, watch as he comes through here, gets out a little bit too wide, and just a little bit of a bounce there is all it takes. That's really easy to manage if you work on your rebound, how the dampers work that rebound. If you set that up right, that's not a problem. But if the car is too stiff and rebounds too harshly, you don't have the timing down on that rebound setting, then you end up, well, in a wall just like that.
So very likely that's going to be your 60 DNF of the day. David A. Williams did not start taking part in final practice. Looking at one of the battles that's closed up here. Things are getting dicey amongst some of the OMP2s. Robert Tinsley having to take a hard left. Christopher Pies 3 wide as he nearly pushes Dale Green off the track.
Yeah, this is going to be a good move right here. Nice defense being laid down. Chris Pies trying to hold on. He wants to get this position. He is really hungry for it, though, coming up on Robert Tinsley. He's only about 3/10 off of him at this point. Now it's a drag race down to turn 10, or 10A, as it were. So Chris coming down, he's got a good draft. Can he close this up? He's going to close it up under braking. Now it goes into the corner, really gets tight up under the wing there. Robert Tinsley just screaming through that corner. Absolutely every last bit of traction he could find as they come out and cross start finish.
Pies now looking for a chance to regroup. They have more traffic to deal with. Morgan Smith next up, and that's not going to hurt. That's not going to help Pies at all. Pies had to slam the brakes to get around Morgan Smith.
Yeah, good job there. Pick set by Robert Tinsley. Knew exactly what he was doing. Love to see if we can get an on board of that as we watch, probably from Chris Pites' car. If we can see that where they came up there, you can watch how Tinsley really tried to set things up and make sure he could get around just like he wanted to and slow down Chris Pites. He knows Chris is hungry for that position, and making sure he could get through there and open up that gap was exactly the right thing for him to do at that point.
Pies find a way to be able to move up one more spot here. 7 minutes to go. There's still a little bit of time left. About 7 estimated laps to go for this class today. It's going to be tight, though. To be able to get the job done, we'll need some luck with Tinsley now running off and away.
Yeah, Pies has a good opportunity here to close up. Now he's got a GTP car in between him and Tinsley. So he's got that opportunity there for that GTP car to make its way through and slow Tinsley down. He's only about 8/10 off of him at this point. Now he's had a little back and forth. I don't know if he's going to be able to make this happen on his own. He's going to need help from that GTP car. That is Jimbo Pfeiffer in that car. Now, able to slide through. Now there's a GTD car in the mix, and it's going to be tight for Chris Pies, trying to tuck up underneath the GTD car, now holding on to the draft of that GTP car. Now coming down, it is a drag race once again down to turn 10, flashing lights on that Acura as they work their way into 10A.
Quickly done and quickly. Not too much time lost yet again. So right now, Tinsey has the advantage in terms of the big picture for now. Pies still keeping at the edge of drafting distance. They do have more layers of traffic. According to position battle, one of the AMP battles is Shane Hunter parks it in front. Chris Sherburne nearly makes contact with Pies in the midst of said fight. Pies this time doesn't want to have a pick set. That nearly sends Shane Hunter wide. And in turn, these two AM drivers just got a lot of intense fighting around them.
Yeah, they're up and down this field. There's something going on, and Chris Pies really did a good job of timing that pass just right. Now, Jimbo Pfeiffer, I said he was an Acura. That was actually a Porsche. I misidentified the headlights that were flashing on that one. But Chris Pies trying once again to close that up. It's going to be a challenge. Meanwhile, back into this GT battle.
Under 5 minutes to go on the clock. Still keeping an eye on the AM fight. Still keeping a close eye as well. We mentioned on the LMP2 fight up the road. These two AM drivers settling out for now. Keep in mind the satellite racing machine of Shane Hunter in front. Chris Sherburne. It's must for Gone Broke Racing. And sometimes, when you're fighting for position, you just have to go for broke, as some may say.
Yeah, with 4.5 minutes left, this is the time to make those moves and make them stick. At least start trying to test those moves. This is not a time to sit back and go, well, I got a couple of laps. Yeah, you do, but you don't know what's going to happen. As we've seen, traffic can really mess up your plan, so you need to start making those moves right about now. And
here's the difficult part in the midst of this. They do have lead lap traffic as well here to deal with. So, as they battle it out, let's go back to Tinsey and Pies, because Pies is back within 2 car lengths on the draft. He looks to try and close up again. He's been bold in terms of the sends already this run. Can he get a send? Not close enough. He backs it up this time to set it up for the next lap.
Yeah, looks like he's going to back that up and try to get it coming out of turn 11. Hammered down as they come through here. He's got a little bit of a draft. Can he close this up getting into turn 1? He has closed it up quite a bit. Needs to put a little bit of brake on as we come up through turn 1, into 2, up to 3, and he is right on his tail. This is closer than it looks from that shot. They are right at about 3/10 off of each other, and a lot of that, quite honestly, is Chris Pies just biding his time. He is trying to plan when he wants to make that pass. I think he thinks he has a chance. Did I say that correct? I think he thinks, yes, he has a chance as they work their way down to 10A. They're coming out of 7 right now. Chris Pies putting the power down. You see a little bit of a wiggle there, but the car in front of him, Robert Tinsey, he's got a little bit of draft that's going to help him out. That is going to be Sheldon Rosenbaum, who was able to give that little bit of draft to Tinsey. Now Chris Pies trying to close that up. This is what I'm saying. You've got to make those passes now. There is no time to wait.
And it's the matter of, is there a chance he gets the full time? Lap traffic takes the time and throws it out the window. Pies forced off the gas. That's a loss of a couple car lengths. That could be the difference with about 2 minutes to go to have a shot on the send. Battle in sector 3. Shamanik going side by side and 3 wide with traffic. Michael Ross trying to use Morgan Smith as a pick. Morgan Smith trying to move as far left as he can. 3 wide as they go down into 10A. Ross trying to stick to the right. More contact and they wreck. Ross crashes. Shamanik turns around the 67.
That'll be interesting to see what the stewards have to say about that one. It all happened so fast, it's going to have to go to the stewards room for sure. That has got to be just heartbreaking, though, for Michael Ross. He was doing such a nice job working his way up there and holding on to that high position. Meanwhile, looks like Simonic is going to pretty much clinch P4 at this point.
And remember, that's not the first time they've had contact tonight. The last time they were side by side, they touched a small bit. This time they touched a lot more. And this time it ends with one driver in the wall. 1 minute to go. More battling. Once again, fourth, LMP2. Tinsey has some more traffic. Pies is closed up yet again. Cop car is the next driver to deal with here out of turn 5. And Pies wants to go now. Pies trying to use the same move he tried with the 3 wide before in this section. This time he can't do it.
Pies needs to be careful right here. He has got right on his tail. It looks like Dominic Durenberg, who is he is our overall P2. Now this is an opportunity. If Durenberg can get around and Chris Pies can stick up underneath his wing, he has an opportunity to get around here. Meanwhile, it looks like he moves right to stick right up underneath there. Is this going to hamper Tinsey at all? Looks like Tinsey does lose a little bit of time. Meanwhile, Pies has closed that up. It is about a quarter second as they come around that final corner. Once again, this is going to be our final lap.
White flag already waving. Maximilian Muir's already taken it. We've had one off the racetrack. This was a battle for position. Eddie Layden off with Nathan Dowd in the battle for 5th in the GTPs. And that's cost Layden his 0 incident point race. All while up front, Satellite Racing's Maximilian Muir on rails all day. Wave with the wiper blade. It's a victory for Car 69.
Yeah, beautiful job. Max Muir wins this by a good 40-something seconds. Dominic Durenberg, who we just watched, was back there. Meanwhile, coming across for the finish here, this is going to be Ross Booth taking the GTD win. Ed Eisenring, not that far behind, I think is going to be able to take the win for the amateur class of the GTDs. Meanwhile, it looks like Ooms, I think, Ooms is still our leader by about a lap over Kundinger. So Ooms is still well out in front, but this battle with Chris Pies and Robert Tinsey is not over.
Checker flag waves, a poke one more time. Pies can't get around. Tinsey does hold on. But the overall win in terms of the LMP2 side coming to a close here. Ooms just avoided getting lapped one more time today. But once again, car 19 for composite. He runs away with the class, picks up the win, and gets it done for a team 1-2-3 finish here at Road Atlanta.
Wow, what a race. And you don't have to be at the pointy end of the field for that race either. We just watched Christopher Pies and Robert Tinsey. That was for 4th in class. What a race those two had up and down this field. Absolute amazing racing, just like we came here to watch.
Remember the moment I talked about on the deep sends earlier? Billy Smith, the second, tried on the last lap. Luckily, he still finished from that slide. And meanwhile, this is the incident talked about. A dive in. Eddie Layden tried to play some defense down on the poke. Layden goes off.
Yeah, that looked like he just got a little bit hot going in there. Couldn't quite hold on to it. That's the way it works, unfortunately. These cars are pretty amazing. It just not every time. Meanwhile, let's go take a look at that unofficial results.
Yes, indeed. In GTP today, Maximilian Muir picked up the unofficial victory by a whopping 43 seconds over Durenberg. Lee Peterson, Billy Smith, last on the lead lap. Dowd, Layden, and Pfeiffer all finished out in GTP today. DNFs in class, Clip Paul Gibson, and a DNS by David Williams. Then when it comes to LP2 today, Jeffrey Ooms, Carter Kundiner, Robert Cast rounded up the top 10 overall. And 1, 2, 3 for the team in that class. Of note, Tinsey, Pies, and Bennett finish things off for the LMP2s today after some intense fighting for fourth, especially in that class. Why don't you take the GTDs today?
Well, it looks like it's going to be a Porsche podium today at Road Atlanta. Ross Booth, Michael Marlowe, and Eric Starpoli taking your podium in the GTD class. Meanwhile, Ed Eisenring, also in a Porsche, is going to be the AM winner in the GTD class. So GTD AM looks like Ed Eisenring, and then behind him, I believe that's going to be Paul Slavonic and Trent Brown sharing the podium along with him. In what car? Take a wild guess. That's right, a Porsche. Looks like the Porsche is just dominating the GTP class. Although, I got to say, it was really interesting to see 3 different cars on the overall podium in the GTP class. We had a Porsche, an Audi, and a Cadillac. So a little bit one-sided, it seems, in the GTDs. But here is the rest of the field as you take a look.
Yes, indeed. 38 took the green flag today. In turn, about 31 take the checker flag here in this one. Drivers already standing on by here on FTF.GG for post-race coverage. Once again, we mentioned Maximilian Muir picking up the overall win. Still waiting on him. We do have some of the others amongst the team representatives. In fact, we have the GTD overall winner, for the pro side, should say. Let's bring in Ross Booth. Why don't we first here in this one? Ross, well done here tonight on the speed. Talk us through what made this race different in terms of your way to pick up the win and get some distance in the points over Marlowe.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was a tough one. You're at the limit the entire race here in a GT3 car around Road Atlanta. I think majority of the field tonight was a little rusty in terms of not enough practice because of the big race on the weekend there. But it looks like it was a really clean race from my cockpit.
So in turn, tonight picked up the victory by a sizable distance. How was that car feeling throughout this night?
Well, like I said, didn't get a whole lot of long run testing, so we were hoping for the best from the long run point of view, and it felt good. The track conditions and air temp was rocket cold from what I think majority of everyone was expecting. So the cars felt like they were rocket ships around here today.
So in turn, this big in terms of the point standings. Of course, you and Yun Park have been having an aggressive battle all season. The Glen is next. In turn, when approaching a track like Watkins Glen, what is your approach?
Well, the league and Carter has thrown everyone a curveball because they were running the layout without the chicane at Watkins. So juggling how much wing you put on the car versus how good you want to be in the last couple corners is something to play with. And I think you'll see everyone run different type of setups, and the racing will be really entertaining to watch in a couple weeks' time.
Any shout-outs you'd like to give after this one tonight?
Yeah, just shout out to the whole Composite Performance team. We had an amazing Daytona 24, finished second in our split in GT3. We do a ton of work here, and super proud of everyone. And shout out to Carter. He hustles this league every week to make sure we've got people on the grid, and hopefully we're putting on a good show for everybody watching.
Once again, congratulations, Ross, on the class victory today.
Thank you.
The pro win in GTD going towards Ross Booth this evening. Standing by next with Michael Johnson, it's Dominic Dorenberg finishing second in GTP.
Dominic, quite a performance today. How did this work out for us? So we heard a little bit from Ross Booth talking about how the cold air and the cold track, it was 57 Fahrenheit for the air, 68 Fahrenheit for the track. That's quite chilly. Did it just turn this Acura into an absolute rocket ship?
I never truly felt comfortable today. the Acura wasn't the best at Petit Le Mans. I took an old set, worked with it, but I guess just with this time of the year, some sessions you went in were really hot, some were very cold, so it was a little tough to make a decision last minute on what to run, which basically just meant I had to be a little bit more careful and make smart moves. But I think overall it worked out at the end of the day.
Indeed, it did. Nice, solid P2. Watching you work your way around the field, did you find it was easier at the end of the race as opposed to the beginning of the race to get through the slower traffic, or was it kind of about the same for you?
Definitely easier that first run through traffic. I think we were, 8 GTPs coming up on 24 GT3s, and they're all basically bumper to bumper. And with Road Atlanta being the way it is, you just never know what's going to happen. I do seem to recall a little bit of a pile up at the top of the hill, which I was very glad to make it through there. But yeah, traffic plays a huge factor here, so I was glad I didn't get collected in it.
Yeah, managing traffic, that requires a lot of patience, which is something people don't generally associate with race car drivers. I know when I'm in interviews and talking to people about racing and doing coaching myself, I really push patience. How much did patience play for you today through this race to be able to end up in P2?
Well, Autobahn is a pretty tight knit group. The league's been around for a while. A lot of these drivers I've been racing against for several seasons now, and I think there's definitely um, situations where if you, as the faster class car, wait and let the GT3 go through their corner, they'll remember that. And at some points, I feel like they even helped me when they saw that I was coming up, and they would lift a little bit or run a little bit wider just to allow that pass to happen even better. So it's a give and take. You got to give a little bit, and then you can take a little bit.
It is good when you know who you're racing with, even through the classes. It makes a big help. So for this P2 today, I'm sure there's a good number of people you want to give thanks to.
Yeah, I mean our whole team. Ross already mentioned we had a fantastic Daytona 24 this weekend where we finished with 3 podiums and another top 5. Everyone worked so hard to get these cars on track and put on a good show for you guys. So I'd like to thank everybody on my team, and of course our sponsor SimLab and Grid Engineering for helping us out with our racing efforts.
Well, great job today, Dominic. I appreciate you being here to talk to us. Meanwhile, though, it looks like we've got an opportunity to talk to Carter Kundinger. And yeah, Carter coming on into the booth right now.
Yes, indeed. Carter coming away second in the LMP2 class, a part of a team 1, 2, 3. First of all, how was that preparation like with so much on your plate with Daytona, and in turn taking that set prep and focusing it to tonight?
Honestly, there wasn't. I mean, I will admit there was not a whole lot of prep. Definitely Daytona was the focus. I hopped in the car. Thankfully, I had nothing to do today. I didn't have any work or school to go to today, so I spent a good portion of the day today just doing some practice. Kind of really just not really doing a whole lot of setup work, just a whole lot of just getting used to Road Atlanta, knowing that it was probably going to be a pretty chaotic race and very traffic dependent. All I wanted to do tonight was just make sure that I kept the car underneath me, and I mean I was able to do that. Just couldn't really catch ooms at the end.
In turn, though, throughout the season, when looking at the point breakdowns, the first thing that comes up on the headlines is the composite 1, 2, and about 7 entering the night. How important is having strength in numbers in a series like this and having the competitiveness your grouping has, both platinum, carbon, and you just throw titanium?
Oh yeah, no, it's super important, honestly. We take a lot of time, just going through, making sure everyone is kind of, up to speed, at least at a minimum, and it's really nice to have those resources. It does suck to lose to them. I will admit, it's really nice to have teammates on your back until you race them, and then it sucks to lose to them. So that part does suck, but honestly, it's just super awesome that, we've been able to not only just recruit, have some really fast drivers on our team, but also develop some drivers into these really fast guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys who started in the league in Autobahn who are current composite members who really just, were your mid-tier. They came in kind of like had okay pace, and over the last few seasons it's been really nice to develop them and just watch them grow. So I mean, shout out to the whole team. It obviously at 1, 2, 3 and LMP2 is pretty awesome. even, a second place up in GTP. We had high finishes in GTD. So yeah, it's super good effort all around for the team.
So the effort now turns towards Watkins Glen next. That's in a couple weeks' time. It was already talked about a little bit, in fact, by Dominic Dornberg in terms of the configuration that comes to mind. What's your thoughts on the configuration for the Glen?
Yeah, so obviously with me being the admin, I kind of had to take, because I knew we wanted to race the Watkins Glen, but I really had to take into account, okay, how could I produce the best race both for the drivers in the league and for the audience? And the unfortunate thing about Watkins, in my opinion, is with the bus stop, you're driving on a very, very, very thin line between having stability in the bus stop and just losing it. And I've seen through official IMSAs, through other higher end league races that will go to Watkins Glen, the bus stop has many casualties. So I think doing the classic boot configuration without the bus stop should produce some really good driving, and the attrition should be relatively low there. So I'm looking forward to it in 2 weeks.
Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to who you haven't mentioned already?
Yeah, no, just shout out to the team in general. Dom for, organizing everything. We had a really good outing at Daytona this weekend. We had 3 cars get podiums, 3 out of our 5. So that was super awesome. And then shout out to our sponsor, SimLab. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Just everyone who comes out to Autobahn, just super great.
Well, congratulations on the team 1, 2, 3 in the LP2s, and really the full team success when you break it down.
Yeah, no.
That's Carter Kundiner coming away with the solid run today. I think him and the rest of the drivers for taking the time to speak was during post-race coverage here on FTF.GG. On that note, Michael, your final thoughts on the action tonight?
I think this was one of the races everyone looks forward to, and it did not disappoint. Road Atlanta is one of those places where you expect amazing racing. It's been around for so long because it delivers exactly what we saw tonight. When you have 4 classes ultimately out there, just mixing it up, and such good, clean fun, outside of the one little incident that happened, but honestly, this is what people watch racing for. It's a lot of fun to see all these drivers get out there and put forth such a great effort to put on a show that is absolutely worth watching. So as long as they keep doing this kind of stuff, you're going to see this people coming back week after week after week to watch. This was absolutely amazing.
On that note, remember the next time out for this series, as touched upon, Watkins Glen International. Be sure to tune in for that one, February the 5th. That's 60 minutes of racing. Coverage starts approximately about 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Qualifying closes at about 9:15 p.m. Eastern on that Monday night. On that note, it's time to say goodbye. For my co-announcer, once again, Michael Johnson. For our producer, and Zach Johnson, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening. You've been watching FTFGG and its coverage of the Autobahn Sportscar Championship. Let's head off to Raid Moonhead and see how Mooncar is mooncarring.